Some thoughts from the half marathon yesterday. I should have taken off my sweater before the run started. I warmed up very quickly. I wasn't overheated, but I definitely regretted having my sweater on because I didn't get to my crew until 2 miles in. And by the time I was a half mile in, I wanted to ditch it. And honestly, I could have. I brought a sweater that was like not really something that's special or that I cared about that much. So I could have dropped it. I fueled early and often. As soon as I felt myself start to fade, I would take another honey packet. I will show in a video, a reel, some of the things like getting ready for the run and then post run. But I wanted to share a little bit more thoughts here in my stories. Another thing was that I had a pair of second gen Apple AirPods. I had gotten one pod plus the case from a friend who had accidentally lost one of her AirPods. So she bought a new set. And so I got the old set from her. And then I found a replacement pod on eBay for like $40. So I got these Apple AirPods for like $40 total. I have had these AirPods for like going on 3 or 4 years now. And I accidentally put them through the washer and the dryer like almost a year ago. And slowly they have been dying. As in like they are getting quieter and quieter. I didn't realize though that they couldn't hold a charge that well anymore. I just don't use them for that long of a period of time. Normally when I do my runs, I use my bone conducting headphones so that way I can hear traffic. But for the race, I wanted to have my AirPods so that way my text messages and voice messages or whatever, calls, notifications would come through immediately so that I can hear it. Well, I only put on one pod because I was just planning to switch, but I wanted to be able to hear my pacers or anybody around me that maybe wanted to have a conversation. I'm not really a talker when I run, but some people are, and I don't mind listening. And I'll give you a, yeah, that's crazy. Well, you know what I mean? Like I'll respond, but I probably won't just initiate the conversation is what I'm saying. Well, about 3 miles in, my headphone died. I heard a do-do-do-do. Thought, well, that's perfect. It's really early in the run for that to happen. So I took it off. I also had like a loop thing that I bought so that way it wouldn't just fall out of my ear. It hasn't happened before, but it still could just because it hasn't. As I was putting it back in the case to get my other pod out, I accidentally dropped it and I kicked it across the road. So then I had to do like a V cut over this way and then a V cut back. And that I feel like, even though it wasn't that big of a deal, I just feel like it threw me off a little bit. Then my other AirPod died around 10 miles. And I just did not have the space to try and deal with the headphone situation again. So I just left a dead AirPod in my ear. That kind of sucked, not having to be able to contact or let my crew contact me for motivation during the run, the very last hardest part. I also had a playlist that I had pinned. My like, yeah, it's time, like we're putting in the work now. And then I started to get into my head. Around mile 11, I was starting to feel very tired. I was increasing my carb intake because the tiredness just kept coming. My legs started to feel very heavy. I was verbal about what I was going through to my pacers, which they were absolutely amazing. Shout out to Beast Pacing, the 215 runners, Emily, and I'm blanking on the other girl's name, the other woman's name. They were fantastic. They just kept asking me what I needed. And I told them, just keep talking to me. Try to take me, like distract me from everything that's happening in my body right now because it's starting to really fade. And I kept telling myself, don't give into the fade. Don't give into the fade. You're so close. You're almost done. You can hold this pace. All you got to do is maintain. It doesn't matter if you go any faster. Stick with these women. They've got you. And so that's what I did. And then the very, very end, like last quarter mile maybe, I was able to, I got a pickup. I had just a little bit left in the tank and I was ready to give it my all. I was passing people on the side of the road, cheering, you know, just spectators, which, oh, it just gave me a boost of energy. I listened to a podcast before that talked about take that energy from the crowd, especially towards the end, you're going to need it. In my first half marathon, I didn't. I was like so in the zone and just tunnel vision. When I came up to my kid cheering for me, reached out and grabbed her hand. I really wanted to pick her up, but man, my legs were struggling just to carry me, especially that first time when my knee was not cooperating. I didn't have any issues with pain as far as my body went like that. My legs just felt like lead. It wasn't hurting. My lungs didn't hurt. I just like, it was like my legs weren't doing what they needed to do to get me to the end anymore. And these ladies just kept me very motivated right up into that. Like once I took off from them, just not that much farther in front of them, but they were yelling behind me. I took that energy. I took the energy from the spectators, and it was all so overwhelming because I knew I was going to smash my goal. A 13-minute and 26-second PR from my first half marathon race. Insane. Like I did that. So as I'm running up, there's a last little turn, which I wish that it was just straight on because it slowed me down a little bit to have to go around that turn. I was starting to sob. And then I was so happy because there's a finish line. And then I get across the finish line and I bend over and I'm sobbing. I will say the hardest part of the course was miles 5 to 10, which I read online. So I was mentally prepared for that. So when we were going through that tough spot, all I kept telling myself was, this isn't even the hardest route that you've ever had to take. Training where I live is the rolling hills are harder. Now, that being said, I'm not trying to PR out here on the road by myself. I'm trying to PR during a race when I've got all of this other energy around me, the adrenaline from the very start, which lasted me a long time through the race. And by the end of it, it was mostly mental, but also my legs were extremely heavy. And I don't know if that was a result of my mind telling me that this was hard and I was ready to be at the end, or if it was just a natural part of running that long of a distance for, running high speed for that length of time. My Oura ring said that I was in zone 5 for like the entire time. But from what I understand about heart rate zones, and maybe there's probably outliers for this, but from what I understand, being in zone 5 is like an all-out sprint, and I wasn't doing that. And they say that you can only last in zone 5 for a few minutes max. So I don't know if maybe my zones for my Oura ring are off, because that's also just an estimate of what the equation is, 220 minus your age for your top heart rate. And then it has like a percentage of what zones 1 through 5 is. I can't remember what the percentages are off the top of my head, but I think zone 2 is around 70% of your maximum heart rate. So then, from there, it's different for every stage. But supposedly I was in zone 5 the whole time. So if that's true, then yeah, shit, I was giving my all. My body was definitely taxed by the end. But I digress. It was a good day. It was a good day for a run. It was nice and cool in the morning, not too hot. I could have even stood for it to be a little bit cooler. I really like running in the cold weather rather than running in the heat. A couple of things that were kind of crappy was the water situation. There was very few water stations for the half marathon. There were more places that there definitely could have been more water. There just wasn't. I don't really know what that was about, but I do actually plan to bring it up. I don't know if I am going to send an email or if there's just like a comment or suggestion box on their website. I'm going to look for that. More water stations for sure. The really beautiful thing about this run was that I ran across the Rock River from Rock Falls into Sterling. If you're from that area, you probably know exactly the bridge that I'm talking about. I do not remember the name of the park that we ran into. We were along the Hennepin Canal for part of it as well, but running across the Rock River, it was just the crashing of the water against the rocks, the wind blowing. It was like all I could hear was nature, essentially. And then, of course, the pacers talking. But I allowed that to be like a serene part of the run for me. I really admired the beauty, the capability of my body to continue to carry me, especially because when you go over the bridge, that is right before you get over the bridge is mile 5. So this is across the bridge is the start of the toughest part. So when you're coming back across the bridge to get back into mile 10 and take your last little bit out, that's when it starts. That last 5K is going to get a little bit easier. So that was also like a relief once I got to the bridge part, that I knew that I only had one 5K left. I could do a 5K. That's what I kept telling myself. That's runner's math. Even though I just went a whole 10 miles, I can do another 5K here. I can hold this pace for 5K. And I didn't. It really is. You have to have things out there that you tell yourself about your capability, about your want to be there, about deserving it. The ladies kept telling me, you're a mom. You deserve this. Not to mention, they deserve to see you accomplish your goals. They get to see what a strong woman looks like. They get to see a woman doing something that is for nobody except herself. Because running is for me. I'm not doing anything for anybody else when I'm out on the road, when it's me and my 2 feet. It's just me and the road, me and my thoughts. And I am so, so thankful for the people that I have that are there for me. Everybody that loves me is obviously not going to be able to fit my big runs into their schedule all the time. Some tried and we're not able to, and I don't hold any of that against them, because I know they were thinking about me and cheering me on and being inspired and hopeful and putting out good energy for me, even though they couldn't be present with me. And it makes me super thankful to have that, because not everyone does. And I was thinking about like me as a child, that when I was younger, I lived with my biological aunt, great aunt, if that's how you say it. I don't know, was it once removed? It was my mom's my maternal grandmother's sister. My maternal grandmother's sister. She had guardianship of me for a little while. And during the time that I lived with her, I wanted to play sports. I really enjoyed volleyball, track, and like the group type, I don't know, teamwork. I really enjoyed it, but she always made it into it was a problem. It was an inconvenience to take me to and from practice. It was inconvenient to have to pick me up from games because buses didn't run. Buses didn't run on game nights. And when I was in middle school, we did get bused for sports back and forth from practice. But when it came to high school, we didn't. So I would have a friend that lived a couple blocks down. Her dad was willing and able to help with rides. But then he started to get to the point where he was getting frustrated, not with me, but for the fact is my parents aren't contributing. He's using his gas and his time to go and drive and pick us up from school, from practice. He was a hardworking person. He had to work a lot. And I had parents, or my guardian, not parent, my guardian at the time, didn't do shit. This lady her career was being a con artist. I swear I could write the craziest book and people would be like, is this fucking fiction? Like, did you make this shit up? No, it's my real life. She was a con artist, and that's what she just had to be doing, essentially, is scamming people out of money and things, and shopping, endless shopping. She had a very, very bad shopping addiction, still does. I have no contact with her anymore. But that she had literally nothing going on in her life, no goals, nothing that she was doing that was positive for her. And it just, sometimes I wonder like where I would be athletically had I had people that actually cared about cultivating that within me. But I can't dwell on that. I can't change what happened. So maybe that makes me a little bit extra thankful for what I have now, what I've created, what I've built, all the love that I get from the people that I surround myself with now, that support my goals, that go out of their way to be there for me, even when it's inconvenient, with all of their little kids, packing them up. And trust me, I get it, how hard it can be, even with just one child. It is to cart them around from place to place. And thankfully, we just combine our chaos and it makes it a little bit easier. That's all I can think of for now about half marathon stuff. And if you watched to the end, thanks.